Hello there, this is Ava from Soul GPS. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, what I wanted to talk about is a topic that's been coming up a lot in my comments and my emails. I receive a lot of your comments, a lot of your emails. Thank you so very much for sending those. Just want to let you know, if you don't hear from me, unless you are a client, if you don't hear from me, don't take it personally. It's just, I'm just not able to keep up with the amount of emails that are coming in. But I read them. I'm grateful that the videos are helping you. I'm grateful every time more of you subscribe and of course share my videos and give me likes, because that way we can spread the word and help people who are looking for answers. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart and other people's hearts for being of support to this community. So today I wanted to talk about children, especially very young children, and family dynamics that are narcissistic. What do I mean exactly? A lot of people who realize that they are with a narcissistic, toxic person feel tied to that person because they have a child with them and they don't know what to do. There's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame, mostly from the blame shifting, feeling all the time like it's your fault, being manipulated psychologically, emotionally, physically by this person. And of course, having hyper-conscience, having hyper-empathy makes us reflect and think bad about the idea of putting any limits to the relationship between, say, the aggressive father and the child. Now, quick gender disclaimer: narcissism doesn't discriminate. It happens to all races or ages, all genders. So when I talk about, maybe primarily since I'm a woman, that men are narcissists, it's my own bias coming out. So it's not that that's the case, that it's just men, because women are also very narcissistic, very manipulative, and very damaging. So it happens to both. So always flip the gender if you are a man, and if you hear me talking a lot about men being narcissists, because it happens to you too, and I know this. And I apologize if it comes out that way sometimes in my videos. So back to the topic. So a lot of these women that I hear from, men also, they're in this conundrum, because they say, I know this person is really bad and we're going through a divorce, but we have a baby together, and what do I do? How do I protect my child? And so I believe that there's a kind of a two-step process with this, to distill it down to basics. First step process is, while the baby is still very little and its nervous system is forming, its brain is forming, it is very important to keep much higher protective walls around that child. Why? Because that child is in the process of forming an association between safety and home equals safety generally, and love and safety. Love and safety. I just recorded this video in Polish, and safety has two words that I used, and I just realized that it is in the same word here. So what is love? What is safe? What does it mean to be at home? These words can be somewhat interchanged. Why it's important? It is important from a developmental standpoint, because when later on this child leaves the home, flies out of the nest, if it was raised when it was very small in an environment that was primarily conducive to love and peace, then it will equate safety with love and peace. Meaning that when it meets people and it forms relationships with them, the ones that are loving and peaceful are going to feel safe to them. And they will be more likely to get deeper into these relationships and stay in them. Whereas if a person who's aggressive, who's a narcissist, who's a manipulator, comes into their view, comes into their field, it's going to feel uncomfortable, it's going to feel weird, and it will have a repelling effect. Whereas if a child is raised in an environment that is unsafe, where there's a lot of aggression, when there is alcoholism, when there are arguments, when there's lies, right, and violence, then it will form it as this subconscious thing, a subconscious association between aggression and violence and safety and home. Which means that then when it later comes a time for it to fly out of the nest and form new relationships, When an aggressive person comes around, one who has an intention of manipulating them and using them for the purposes, it's not going to register on the radar. It's going to feel safe. So that person is not going to leave that relationship as soon as possible, whereas the other one would. It's going to stay and deepen that relationship and question its own self as to, maybe it's me, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, maybe And as we know, narcissists are absolutely notorious when it comes to blame shifting. So they're going to keep pushing that button and make you feel that way. So this is why we want to, as much as we can, to the best of our abilities, ensure that during the formative years, we protect the child from bathing in that kind of aggressive energy, and we give them the opportunity instead to be in peace and love. Now, as the child grows up, closing the doors to having a relationship with the father or the mother who are aggressive is a mistake in my view. Why? It's because when we say no to a child, say no, even if it comes from a good place, like, I'm sorry, but you can't see your dad right now because your dad is da-da-da-da-da, that child is going to probably feel kind of curious and wonder, like, well, why? I haven't really had much contact with this person. How do I know? Unless, of course, they have formed a relationship with the third, quote-unquote, person in this dynamic, which is the relationship of the father and the mother. So every child has a relationship with three, quote-unquote, parents: the father, the mother, and the relationship of the father and the mother. It's a third dynamic. And if it's limited, if they can't see, because growing up in that kind of dynamic, a child might be able to tell pretty soon and pretty easily that, this is wrong, there's something wrong here, and they'll be able to also discern and make the decision that they don't want to be around it. They don't want to be around that aggression, right? But again, this is a bit of a fine line here, because if they've been conditioned to think that is the normal, then they will not have this intolerance. They will have higher tolerance for aggression, if that makes sense. This is a lot of big concepts I'm throwing out here, so I hope that this is clear. So now this. So if this person is growing up and it has limits put on it to have a relationship with the abuser, it may question it even to the point where the person who has good intention, who's been raising this child and trying to protect them for many, many years, it may feel like it may start questioning, like, well, maybe that's the manipulator. You see the confusion here? So instead, what's much better, and I know this is hard, is to put the trust in the child and in the fact that you've done the best job that you possibly could have in raising your baby, so that it is now equipped with the ability to discern whether daddy is somebody who's safe or not, or mommy, right? Works both ways. So that's what I think is sort of the best path to take. And again, this is a twofold process. At first, we're trying to protect the child, the development of the child as much as possible, with maybe limited contact with the aggressor. A little bit of contact might be okay, a few hours, not like 1 week with mommy and 1 week with daddy when a baby is tiny. That shouldn't fly. That just doesn't work. But maybe, a couple hours in the afternoon on a Sunday, right? Maybe supervised visits, maybe one day, So you'll have to gauge what's right for you. But then over time, you may want to open up that space so that the child can form a relationship with the father, with the mother. If it's here's just a special little note, since I'm a girl and I understand what it's like to be raised without the presence of the father much, and how that can create a bit of a void in us. And then we can look for any crumbs out there, to fill that void, which can bring us to very unhealthy dynamics. Is that it's good for a daughter to have a relationship with a father, even if that relationship is very limited. It fills something deep in us. But when we do it when we're a little bit older and we're equipped with the knowledge of what we can expect, then it is much better contained and handled. So like for me, I knew that I had to keep my expectations low, but I was still able to have a relationship, and that was immensely helpful to me. So we're opening up a little bit more space for the child to make his or her own decisions, trusting that they'll make the right decision. And here's an interesting thing that may happen. It happens actually quite a lot, is that the aggressive parent, once they get the fight stops, because they go where the resistance at. Once the fight stops, they're going to lose interest in actually having a relationship with the child. Of course, child is going to then suffer some form of an abandonment, but at least they know why. It's not that you prevented them from finding it out, so it's not 100% comprehended. It's something that in which they actively participated, which makes all the difference. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I know this is a broad topic. There's so much more that I could tell you about this, but it's been coming up a lot in the comments lately. So I did want to put out a little bit of content, at least to kind of get the conversation started. I'd love to hear from you below. What you're doing, what are you thinking? But it's a fine line between the wanting to protect, but also having some trust in the process, and then the child, of course, after it reaches a certain age, and you share with the child things depending on how old they are and how ready they are to hear those things. So of course, you're not going to talk about certain things when the child is 5 years old, but once they're 12, you're able to do so much better. So I hope that this was helpful. Do let me know. Do ask more questions. I really appreciate all your support, your subscriptions, your likes. This helps to spread the word. And for now, I'm going to say goodbye, and I look forward to checking in with you again in a future video. And again, thank you so much, and I wish you a good day. Bye-bye.